Hey folks, like I was saying, like I mentioned when I posted the last video, I was gonna talk again. I was gonna talk for a process post, finally. I know it's been a while since y'all heard my voice. It's been a really, like I was saying a couple of posts ago, it's been a very busy couple of weeks, and I have been very taxed, very drained, and not feeling very chatty. But here we are. I'm in a nice, quiet place. I'm going to get started on doing some inking for this week's strip. This is the Filling is Multiplied strip 125. We've already done 125 of these comic strips. My God. We've gotten this far. So what's new? Good question. You have to give me a second to think about that. In radio they say they don't like dead air. I hosted a radio show for about 6 months. It was called The Song Rocket, and it was my friend Austin, when he went to college in Shreveport, Louisiana, called Centenary. That's our home state of Louisiana. And he was the director of the college radio station there for a little bit. And I was not in college at the time. I'd already graduated from art school, but I was like, hey, do you think there's a spot there for me to host a radio show? And he was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, cool. So it's a very easy process, really. I just recorded, I put together the tracks and basically made like a giant track through Audacity, which is a free open source program. If you don't know about Audacity and you're into audio editing, I would really recommend checking it out. It's legit. It's really great. I put together almost 3.5 albums using Audacity, and it's got everything that you would need, what kind of things would you need? Oh, noise filtering, pitch changing, all those goodies. You can do phases, you can phase your audio or whatever. You can, I don't know, I'm not an expert by any means on audio editing software. So for me, I was like, wow, this lets me do more things than I've ever been able to do with audio. So to me, it seemed like a great thing, but I'm sure there are people who have had maybe more experience with stuff like, what's it called? GarageBand? Is that I think that's like Apple's little audio editing tool. But to me, it seemed like using Photoshop but for sound, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I don't know if if you don't want to spend money on audio editing software, but you want to mess around and try and make, I don't know if you're like me and you want to try and make an album based off of found noises in cell phone music, give it a try. I highly recommend it for those particular needs. But anyway, like I was saying, I used Audacity to put together my radio show, and I would just record my voice, layer that over in the audio track, and then how did I send it to my friend Austin? I think I Dropboxed it to him. I can't remember, but those files were probably about 50, 60 megabytes per file. They weren't small, but they weren't big either. Too big to send over Gmail, but just big enough for a Dropbox account. And now, okay, so I decided to start on the last panel of this trip for whatever reason. And I'm going to try and do some sort of after image effect here on this, like, cat toy. See how that works out. Maybe okay. I should also add a little bell right there. But yeah, it was fun doing that radio show, but I ran out of steam after a while because I didn't really have that big of a song track list to pull from, and I didn't want to spend money to buy tracks. It was just all like it was basically all music from my personal computer library. There's just a fair amount of, but I think there was a point where I was like, I don't even want to listen to some of this music myself, so I'm not going to play it. And I did it, yeah, like I said, I did it for about 6 months, which I can't remember how many shows I made. I thought I made more than 10, but I think it is only about 10. So maybe it wasn't really 6 months. Maybe it was more. How many months is that? It was about a quarter, which is, you know what? I think that's it. I did it because that's right, because that college ran on a quarter system, so it was about 10 or 12 episodes, give or take. I still want to do another radio show, but if I did another radio show, it would be a talk show, I'm pretty sure. I don't really know how I would be as a host. I guess y'all might have some idea from listening to me talk on these things, but I've always thought about if I wanted to do a show, I'd want to do a talk show that was like based on very speculative subjects like philosophy, science fiction, sociological topics, etc., etc. And blast some of my favorite music on the top and the bottom of the hour. No, this show will not be Coast to Coast AM, I'm sorry. But it would probably be a lot like it, to be honest. It would probably be it would dip into that fount from time to time, I think, considering my interests. I feel like I need to change the line width for blue in the background, so it gives her more of a look that she's actually in the background. Today, Blue and the baby, the toddler, the little one, went to the beach with our friends. I'm not really sure which beach they're going to. I can't remember. But they're going to the coast. I really want to go to the coast sometime soon. I really love the Oregon coast. I feel like it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. It's just very majestic. And the ocean in general is a very calming presence, both in terms of the sounds of the waves crashing on the shore, but also, like, in regards to the sheer magnitude of it. It has an effect on my psyche of just, I don't know, it's like a humbling kind of feeling, like, oh, there's this giant mass of water that could come crashing in on me in any moment. Some earthquake happens across the pond, or I don't know. There's something about it's the same feeling I get from looking at the stars at night. Like when you're way out, far away from the city, and you see all the stars, and you see our little chunk of the cosmos. It just create. I don't know. There's this feeling that. I guess I would describe it as the calm that comes with the recognition of cosmic insignificance, which is, I think, basically the feeling of being relieved that in some manner your life is kind of irrelevant to the rest of everything that's happening around you. I know for some people that might not be a calming feeling, but for me it is. It's sort of the relief of, oh, well, considering all the stress and difficulties of my life, there are things happening out there outside of the atmosphere that would send my soul a shuddering. Anyway, that's how I feel about the ocean too. There are things occurring beneath the waves that the deep depths of the ocean, you get so far down, it's just pitch dark. Strange sea creatures floating about with bioluminescent terror. So yeah, I need to go to the beach soon. Thinking I might ask if that's something we can all do. By something we can all do, I mean my family. Come meet and our kid's birthday, where our baby is going to turn 2. They're already 2 years old, which is really blowing my mind. Okay, right now what I'm trying to do, basically I feel like I need to make Blue's head bigger here. It's not quite big enough. And because I have to adjust the size, what happens is the liner pixelates. And so I'm just going to have to redraw, basically. Or re-ink over that. That's fine. No biggie. Something that needed to happen. I was thinking about, as a potential thing to do in future process posts, drawcasts, whatever you want to call these things, maybe at some point we could have guests, possibly on Skype. What do y'all think? Feel like this is kind of a cool idea? Would it be too weird? I don't know. If y'all have any thoughts about this, please feel free to leave some comments. on Patreon underneath this video. If there are particular people, or even if maybe even you Patreon pledgers, if y'all would like to be guests and Skype in while I'm drawing, let me know. We can do that. We can make it happen. I think that would be really cool. So let's say like a Monday or Tuesday coming up in the future, you have some time to kill on your hands and you're just like, oh, you know, it'd be cool, I'm gonna talk with Matt while he's inking a comic strip. I'd be down for that. You can record that, talk about what's on your mind. Doesn't even have to be about polyamory / non-monogamy, whatever word you like to use. It could be about politics, stock market, science. I guess the only thing it really... we could talk about sports, but I don't think I would have a lot to say. We could talk about sports, though. Talking about other people's art. Talk about subjects concerning non-monogamy. Subjects concerning all the nuances of daily life. I'm open. I'm open to ideas. I'm just kind of rolling out this background right here. Very, very minimal. Very likely, too. I mean, you know, another thing is there are a couple of Patreon pledgers that are people I don't even... I haven't... Some of y'all I do know, and some of y'all I've never met in my life, so that would be another reason to want to do, like an interview-style thing like that, and be like, hi, how are you? Who are you? What's on your mind? What do you think about late at night when you're trying to go to sleep? Even when you're not trying to go to sleep. So the more I think about this idea, the more I love it. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Alright, here we go. Getting a lot of stuff done here. I think that panel is mostly done for right now. I still have some shadows and stuff to fill in, but I'm not going to bother with that right now. Let's see. Make a new layer. So, part of the context for this strip, so like this strip is about Ember playing with Mona, and Ember and Mona had a lot of fun together, but also there have been a lot of times where Ember was caught in the line of fire and got clawed by Mona, so there were a number of times where we were having to teach Ember about our child, I should say, about keeping their space from Mona. And this is a comic strip that's going to be about that. For those who don't know us personally, bit of a spoiler here, but Mona just recently passed. And so we want to do a number of strips just kind of just detailing her and her final days, basically. But she lived to the ripe old age of like, I don't know, 13, 14, 15? She's going to be an old cat. And she was sick, she had hyperthyroidism, and she was taking medicine for that to help regulate her metabolism. But after a while, I think it started to affect her heart. And we're of the opinion that her heart gave out. Because one morning, Marco got up and found her just laying there dead. She died in her sleep. I hope she died in her sleep anyway. Certainly my hope. And the thing that's really sad that I think about is that I don't know if our child's going to remember Mona. They have a vague notion that Mona isn't around anymore, but they're not like, I don't know. They haven't really asked all that much about where she is. I think just one day, they woke up and they're like, oh, that cat's not here anymore. I haven't seen that cat in a long time. Yeah, it doesn't look like they're actually looking at Mona, so I feel like I need to fix that. There we go. It's better. Really kind of zooming through this line work. Trying to take it easy today too. been trying to take it easy all week, really. You know, I have a lot of stuff on the plate. But I'm kind of in this place where I'm like, oh, it'll get taken care of. Just take my time. Kind of let it ride out. Like, I have some Plants vs. Zombie stuff I really need to get to this week. Because I'm running a little bit behind on that stuff. Don't have any music to blast at y'all today. I'm working without internet access at the moment. I just can't. Something's off about Blue's face here. It's like the chin. Something's up with the chin. Okay. It's like sticking out too much. It's been so hot in Portland. I don't know how many of our pledgers are people who live outside of Portland, Oregon. Nor do I know how hot it's been for you, wherever you live, but it's been really warm this summer. Just consistently, like, uncomfortably warm. Maybe it's also, like, the humidity. Like, it's just been really humid. Sunny. Not a drop of rain in sight. That's the perfect thing. Drives me up the wall. It'd be different if it were a dry heat, but it's just not, the heat this summer just hasn't been very dry. It's been very like moist, humid, and yeah. So right now what I'm kind of doing is I want to make some of the line work for Ember, or for Child. I'm gonna thicken it a little bit. This background is kind of. I think also. I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. I'm trying to make sure that these layers in space look somewhat divided. Like there's, this is the bookshelf in the background. This is Mona in the foreground. This is Ember in the toddler in the midground. Hard to do when you don't have the feet, right? It's kind of taking it easy on this panel and leaving out their contact with the ground, which would better establish their place in space, right? Perspective. So it goes. Two panels down. And the question is, which one do I want to work on now? I really want pizza today. I kind of want pizza every day. I feel like that's fair. What is life without pizza? An empty, empty life. There we go. That was a really hard line for me to do for some reason. Couldn't tell you why. I do not know why. Yeah, it just seems like there's too much forehead on Blue's face or something. At least in comparison to here. There's something about it. I'm trying to do something about it. Let's see how this goes. This week we talked to Marco's mother about materials we were thinking about using for the house or houses we're going to eventually build. And she is very knowledgeable and experienced in construction. And we are now pretty much all in agreement that we want to use aircrete as a building material. It just seems pretty much better than anything else we would use. I've been doing a lot of thinking about the way we construct buildings in the United States, especially houses, residential houses in particular. And my feelings at this point are that using wood is like a lot of BS, because if you break it down, ultimately what wood is it's a byproduct of clearing out land in the United States. And you can use it for all kinds of things, right? Like you can use it to pulp it and make paper, which is pretty good. That's something that gets reused too, because you can recycle it. But using it to build houses, not so great. It doesn't have any kind of insulation, really. Structurally, it's just kind of a mess. It deteriorates and degrades over time. And so recently, after doing some research on highly sustainable and green building materials, Well, a big one is aircrete. And what aircrete is it's basically concrete, but instead of using just water, you mix it with some kind of foaming or lather agent. And what happens is with the foaming agent, when you mix the cement with it, it dries and hardens with the air bubbles that I've created in the lather. So it has the sturdiness of concrete, but it's also very lightweight. And it's very, you can basically treat it a lot like wood. You can take a hacksaw to it, cut it into pieces. You can, it floats, which is kind of nuts. Like, you can, theoretically, you could build some sort of floating platform with it. It's fire resistant, it's termite resistant, carpenter ant resistant, water resistant. It's awesome. I'm just like, we are all pretty much have made the commitment to aircrete, and most importantly, it's super cheap, unlike wood, which is, I'm sure part of its price is bloated from demand or whatever, but just in general, wood is like really expensive. Like, so many of the houses that are part of the reason why it's so expensive to build a house, if you're building a house with typical materials, is that the cost of wood just drives up the price so much. And it's like building a house with wood can cost you up to $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, depending on how big your house is. But aircrete, cuts down that cost by almost, can cut down that cost by almost 2/3, depending on the size of the house. It's kind of whack. It is. It costs way less, and it's pretty much superior just overall. And it's also more insular. It's a better insulator than wood. Because wood is a terrible insulator, which is why most homes are filled with some kind of insulation foam or what have you. I've been trying to make a persuasive argument for the idea of everybody having kind of their own individual mini house. But really what that means is just like a room. It would basically be like a cabin. And then we have like a communal bathroom, communal bathrooms. Technically all bathrooms are communal anyway, right? When you really think about it. But yeah, having communal bathrooms, a communal kitchen, which once again, most kitchens anyway are already communal. There's not really in a house, I guess. In any house, the kitchen and the bathroom space are communal anyway. And then like a communal entertainment area. And then at some point we want to create like an art creation space, which would include studio space for visual art and recording space for music, which I think would be amazing. Like, that's a couple years down the road, but that is some of our goals that we have planned out. And the cool thing about aircrete is that you can make homes shaped however you want, because you can build molds and do other kind of cool stuff. We've been thinking about doing dome-shaped homes because the dome structures are pretty stable and sturdy. There's been some amount of uncertainty and debate concerning that topic. And I have recently made the statement that, okay, what we should do is just make just a bunch of different kinds of cabins and housing units that are shaped, just like in all kinds of different neat and interesting ways, and just be really creative about it to have a cool looking living space. I mean, I'm not talking about like giant aircrete octopi or pirate boats or whatever, but like having some domes, maybe some pyramids, maybe a giant donut. Having homes built into the ground, possibly. Just trying out a bunch of different things. I don't know. I've just been thinking a lot about if you can make it cheaply, if you can build it cost effectively, you can build. And if you get cheap enough land, like you can just build so many houses and have housing for family and friends, and really be able to build a neat little community that way. That's something that, like, as a long-term plan we all have together, and we're only recently getting into this place where we feel like it's possible. And learning that it can be done so cheaply is one of the things that made it possible for us. I think possibly the hardest part is just convincing people to move near us, have an acre between us and our friends and family and whatnot. I'd really love to convince my sister to live on that land. A couple of friends I'd like to convince to do the same. Think of at least 3 or 4. This is a really hard line for me to drive. I don't know why. Oh. Also, this hair doesn't do that anyway. So I don't even know what I'm trying to do. But if any of this that I've been talking about piques your interest, go on YouTube and search for or Google or whatever. But I mainly search through. I usually search for information through YouTube lately, just because it's pretty easy to find videos about whatever topic you want, and I learn very well from audio-visual reference. And but anyway, my point being, go on the internet and search Aircrete, AIRCRETE, and to learn more about it. It's a really interesting material, and much of the world has adopted it, and the United States still kind of remains pretty partial to wood. But at this point, I kind of feel like the United States is just like stuck in a bubble that puts it 10 years behind everything else that's going on in the rest of the world. It's like so many people have this conception that the United States is such a progressive, forward-thinking, advanced country or whatever, but really when you look at it, it's like maybe if you live in San Francisco, and only kind of maybe, because if you live in San Francisco, you're really where you're living is some kind of weird dystopian cyberpunk novel. Meanwhile, if you live in Europe, you can easily get a 1 gigabyte connection on the internet. Good luck finding that in the United States. Oh, I'm mad about it. Because the internet in Portland is just garbage. I feel like I'm using the same speeds of internet that I was using when I was in college. And I'm like, what year is this? This is 2017. It's been like 10 years. That's ridiculous. But that's just one example. There's way more pertinent examples as to why the United States is really stuck in the mud as a country. Behind the rest of the world. I'm not to say that I feel like, oh yeah, the rest of, Europe's got its own problems. There are bad problems with white supremacy and sexism in the rest of the world. But like, whoo, buddy. It's pretty bad in the United States right now. Pretty bad. Odds are for all of you Patreon pledgers who are at the $5 or above level, this comic is going to be uploaded tonight by around 7 or 8 o'clock, give or take a couple hours, and then everybody else around 11, possibly as late as midnight. We'll see. But that is the plan for releasing this strip. And then we're still working on editing and doing some additional recordings for the next Sharing is Caring podcast. It's about such an important topic that we're really taking our time with it, and also because there have been a lot of emergencies coming up recently with friends who are in need of extra help and support right now, and so we've been in a triage scenario a lot lately. There's certain scenarios. It's going to be overall a triage scenario for probably the next 6 months to a year. potentially, depending on how certain things go, but I'm not going to go into detail about them. Save that for a later date, and I'll probably end up talking about it in the comic strip. But that is our life right now. Alright, time to do some filling in with some of the black ink, touching up. Let's see what this is clocking in at. Oh yeah, we're almost going to an hour here. This will almost definitely break an hour. Yeah. Okay. Make sure that's all closed in. Alright. Another question I have is, should I do that? I think I will. Then I'm going to take one thing here. Okay. Yeah, I should have kept that ruler. Well, sometimes it's going to go back and do this. Yeah, that looks good. That works. I think maybe what I could do also, since I already have this dark space right here, but then I'll do that a little better. Beep, boop, boop, beep. Right. Next. I'm thinking I will make. Well, maybe I don't have to do that. Oh, shoot. Not what I want. Not again. Oh, I gotta do flatting soon for the next Plants vs. Zombies book, and I'm just like not looking forward to it. That's why I haven't really started on it yet. This has really been biting my time. Oh well. Where is it? Okay. That's rotating. What are we doing? I guess I'm just gonna go like this. So that works. What? Oh. Oh no. Let's see. Okay. I forgot about that. Well, I guess I'm just gonna do this the old-fashioned way right now. I can do this works. Yes. Great. Got the Moana soundtrack stuck in my head. friend's child who we've been taking care of off and on. It's like the one movie she's obsessed with, so pretty much watched it almost every other day the last month. And I'm probably going to just be able to recite that movie back and forth pretty soon. Well, I think that's pretty much inked. There might be a couple little extra additions, changes, and whatnot that will be made. And I'll likely do a video of me lettering this comic. It won't take very long to do. And I'll have all that posted later this evening. Until then, thank you for watching. Hope you all are having a good day, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.